In this episode, we're talking about controlling your debt.
Episode 20, this is an important one. We just saw two of Canada's largest banks raise their 5-year fixed mortgage rate.
Yeah.
The rest are expected to follow suit.
They should. They probably will, yeah.
We know household debt levels are at all-time highs, sitting at 1.7, which means for every dollar of assets a Canadian has, they typically have $1.70 in debt on the books.
Yeah.
We wanted to talk about some strategies around debt elimination so that Canadians can avoid getting themselves into trouble today.
Yeah, it's a really topical conversation right now because we're seeing it a lot as rates are going up. There's undoubtedly going to be lots of people out there that who are in trouble. And so now's the time to do some planning around it. Ideally, you would have done it before, but now is really the time to get on it. And it's a conversation having regularly with clients, more so just about maximizing their financial plans as well. You know, you might not even be in trouble, but you want to maximize out your finances and your financial situation. So good debt elimination strategy is always a good thing to have in place.
So we got 4 tips for you today. Tip number 1, have good debts. What do we mean by this?
Yeah, so there's good debts and bad debts, you know, and then there's a couple different definitions around that, but I'm going to just focus on really, you know, good debt in my mind is low interest rate debt, first and foremost. So, you know, credit card debt is bad debt, typically around, 19%, 20%. That's bad debt. And even some like loans can be bad debt if they're hovering around prime plus 5 or prime plus 6. Like that gets pretty expensive. So, low interest rate debt is good debt. Tax deductible debt is even better. If you can convert your debt into an instrument where it's tax deductible, that's even better. But for the most part, low interest rate debt is what you're looking for, is good debt.
And I'd take that further and say debt that is maybe used as an investment in yourself or a business to earn potential income in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you always have to gauge what you actually, prioritize what you're actually using this debt for.
The debt on my 70-inch TV, probably bad debt.
Yeah, typically. I mean, like there's great deals at the Brick and other companies like that, but you got to be careful around those. I mean, if you're borrowing money to invest in yourself, education, or to make an investment or start a business or you name it, those are typically good ideas. Potentially good ideas anyway. So just make sure you're using your debt for the right things.
Tip number 2 talks about consolidating your debts. Give us a little more on that.
Yeah, like something that I see a lot of in dealing with clients is, especially when we first start dealing with them, is that they end up with debts at a number of different institutions, a number of different places, a number of different vehicles. And it makes it really, difficult, one, to plan around it for them. And just it ultimately ends up being this confusing mess of debt. Some are higher, some are lower. And so consolidating your debt is all about getting all your debts ideally into one place and at the lowest interest rate possible. So a lot of people will do this like by incorporating their existing personal debts into their mortgage, which are typically lower interest rate debts, or into a home equity line of credit, again at a lower rate. But it's all about just getting all of your debts to the lowest interest rate possible. And if you can get it all to one vehicle, even better, because then it's simple. You've got one payment per month. You just make that one payment every month or bi-weekly, or how often it is, and you just work and chisel away at that debt.
Tip number 3, come up with a debt paydown strategy.
Yeah, so this is more a situation where, especially if you can't consolidate all of your debt into one vehicle or one loan, having a debt paydown strategy will work out really well for you. Make sure you're not spending more money on interest than you have to. So as simple as it is, just try to focus on the highest interest rates first. So if you've got 3 different debts, one's at 3%, one's at 5%, and one's at 7%, focus on the 7% first, then go to the 5, and then lastly go down to the 3. You make your minimum payments on everything, obviously, at least, but really focus on paying down your higher interest rate debts first. And going back to tip number 2, if you can consolidate at a later point, try to do that as well. Always trying to consolidate at lower interest rates. But if you can't, and then you have some higher interest rate debt, just focus on getting rid of that first, and then start chiseling away at everything else.
And our 4th and final tip: once your debt is eliminated, stay disciplined moving forward.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing, and I see too much of this, is that we can put in place a really great debt elimination strategy, and then the debt gets paid down. But if you're not disciplined and you bang up the debt on your credit cards again, or you do this or that, and you don't stay disciplined to your overall cash flow strategy, then you just get yourself back in trouble again. And in some cases, it's harder to get out of it the second or third time around because you have less resources potentially available to you. So just really, it's great to set a debt elimination strategy, but you have to be disciplined after it's done as well. So in some cases, that means if you're not great with credit cards, you got to get rid of the credit cards, and just make sure that you know yourself and understand, how you operate, so you don't get yourself back into trouble again. You have to stay disciplined to it, and frankly, you'll be much happier if you do. Just one last thing I'd say is that, there's always really two questions when it comes to things like debt elimination. There's the math equation, and then there's the comfort level thing. So, and the comfort level always wins out. So when it comes down to it, you could look at doing this, like you have priority 1 maybe is saving, priority 2 is debt elimination, or vice versa. Math right now might say that interest rates are really low, and so you're better off saving and investing. And that's a lot of our clients do that, but they're comfortable with it. If you're uncomfortable with your debt, you're losing sleep at night, that always wins out. It's never doesn't make sense to be stressed out at night or to lose sleep about your debt. So make sure there's a good debt elimination strategy in place in that case. So, all right, that's it for debt elimination.
Episode 20. That's a wrap.
Any questions, give us a shout or send us an email, cgwfamilywealth@nbc.ca. And, of course, visit us at cgwfamilywealth.com. Ready?
Aim. Fire.